Good morning, everyone. For those of you that did not sneak out for coffee in between, there will be coffee after the session. So first of all, I would really like to thank Selco Foundation for organizing this conference. It has been brutally honest. It has been a mirror for ourselves as well. Yesterday, we actually organized a session within IKEA Foundation Partners, where we tried to design a livelihoods program, having designated roles for each and every one of us. And I mean, it showed the complexity of actually designing a program, let alone implementing a program like that. So really respect for all of you that are doing that hard work for us. I mean, we do realize what is happening on the back end. So having said that complexity, of course, there's a number of different stakeholders in the room. We have an excellent panel actually here that is representing a few of those. So I would like to introduce them first shortly, and then afterwards we'll actually listen to some more extensive presentations from all of them. So first, Mr. Surya Kumar. He has been the Deputy Managing Director of NABARD. Actually started at NABARD the year that I was born, we just found out, so has been around for quite a while, and serving different positions and actually working in 9 states. Then next up, we have Ms. Srivastava. Malika is fine, great, thank you so much. She's the Executive Director for the Center of Microfinance, and she has been for the last 7 years, and before that serving various positions as well. So, and then lastly, we have Mr. Bala, and he is the CEO of Fruity. Actually, he has been starting with the organization since they started working with the first farmer, and now serving more than 100,000 farmers. So before we actually start listening to the real experts, as I would say in this panel, I would just like to make a confession, because I mean we're here, you know, to talk about honesty and all. So I've been promoting this conference since I heard about it in 2018, which is actually a bit strange because I wasn't even present myself. But I just really like the idea that we're open to speak about failures. So I hope I actually succeeded in showing up now. I'm a strong believer in candid and honest conversations, and I do realize that being on the chair of the funder, we really have to invite others in order to start that conversation as well. And only then we can work in trusted partnerships and actually achieve those meaningful impacts that we want to achieve for the people that we're working for. So yesterday, one of the things that was still stuck in my mind was something that Victoria said, that she said, like, officially I'm like allowed to feel 30%, but she doesn't feel like she's allowed to feel 30%. So I think, what does that mean, you know, being on the other side as well? How can we facilitate and enable that, and enable that environment as well, where partners that we work with feel comfortable of sharing also the things that might happen differently than we anticipated on. So our founder, Ingvar Kamprad, actually, yeah, you could almost, well, I don't think he would have been happy with that, calling him a fan of failures in that sense, but he used to say only those that are sleeping don't make mistakes, right? So, and I think that's something that is embedded in our organization as well. We try to really challenge conventional ways of working, try to learn from that, but obviously we can't do it alone. We're part of an ecosystem together with all of you in this room. So we're learning as we go, and I think we can also confess that we have been super successful in failing ourselves along that way and learning from it. So working with partners that are our ears and eyes, trust is really the key in that. As Ms. Rohini said yesterday, you need to learn how to trust, and if you give trust, you get trust. And that's something that I will definitely take away home after this conference. And creating that safe space for an honest conversation. And I think Selco Foundation has done a great job in actually facilitating that here. So I hope we can continue with that with the panel here as well today. So yeah, as I said, we have a number of experts here. And they will actually share their experience from the field. They come from different angles, but you will notice, and they actually have all a different topic to zoom in. But we'll see that it's all going to be interconnected in the end. So. Ms. Srivastava, please. Malika, you can start. Thank you. Yes.
Very good morning, everyone. Thank you, Selco Foundation, for this opportunity to come to a very unique forum and talk about and reflect on failure. So generally in conferences, people talk about best practices, case studies for scaling up, and maybe this is also an opportunity for us to see what has not worked, and at least we can reduce the cost of learning, as one of my colleagues call it. So the learning cycle cost can be reduced for everybody. So thank you so much. I will talk about one of our initiatives, the Center for Microfinance we took up. Yeah. So I'll briefly talk about what the initiative was, how it rolled out, and how do we as an organization define what our failure is, because here also multiple stakeholders had a different definition of whether this was a success or a failure. Then internally, the group of people who were closely involved from our organization, we reflected and also took stakeholder feedback as to how what we could have done better, and so that's how I'll share. Yeah. So the Center for Microfinance, basically, it was set up in 2007. And just before I start, I'll give you a background. So the microfinance sector, the world over, there are, I think, a lot of colleagues from other countries also. So I'll give a little bit background. So world over, the microfinance model, the private, channels where companies or trusts are lending and to people through various groups or on basis of mutual collateral is the model. But in India, we also, NABARD has been the pioneer, and later on the National Rural Livelihood Mission has taken it up. The self-help group model, which is basically women's SHGs formed into groups of 10 to 20 members. They also save money, they lend it among themselves, and then over a period of time, they also sustain themselves through that interest differential, and a lot of apex bodies have been formed, and it's a well-established model. So in India, it is a unique model, and when the Center for Microfinance was set up in 2007, at that time, the thinking started around 2005, and Rajasthan, which is the state where we work, was not doing well either on the MFI model or also on the SHG model. And there was a deliberation among many stakeholders, including donors, academicians, NABARD, the Women and Child Development Department, as to what needs to be done to catalyze this sector, especially because on women empowerment, on indicators of women, whether it's economic or social, Rajasthan doesn't do very well, and self-help group could be a very good mechanism to do that. So when we talk to various stakeholders, many had said that quality is an issue, the availability of data is an issue. The bankers said that if somebody can give us some comfort that the repayment is happening, because it is of course not lending directly to the say the women, but through an entity of which they are a member. So that's how when we started off, and we became technical partners to the government of Rajasthan for various projects. And we, Tata Trust is one of our core founders, and we used to manage and monitor a lot of their field projects, which had a lot of best practices. So when in 2009-10 we got this opportunity to partner with the government as technical and knowledge support partner, we were very keen, and one of the mandates which we had was also to demonstrate something new which could actually take the sector forward. And therefore in the document etc. also enthusiastically we also put something of our role as technological innovation and that kind of stuff. So in 2009-10 when we started rolling this out, we came up with this idea that we will have an MIS which would actually not be only an MIS, which could also be an accounting software. See, this was not, now it's a very, tech-savvy world, but in 9-10, there were not any Android devices, and that internet had definitely started reaching. So thinking of this at that time, we actually felt that we were thinking ahead. We started off on this development, and so in this project, which was in Western Rajasthan, so there were around 6 blocks which were in very remote areas, and around 5,000 self-help groups covering some 51,000 women had to be covered. So this was basically the scale which was envisaged, and there was keen interest from within the organization, and we started, we were an NGO, and an important point was that we felt that, okay, we have the design, we can hire any technical vendor and we should be able to develop that. So we did not actually understand that, a technical development and continuous technical development is required in any kind of MIS application. This was not the thought actually we had that time. So we started off, and then we named our software as Saak Darpan. It is a very beautiful name. Our founding member, Professor Vijay Shankar Vyas, had named one of the initiatives which we used to manage, Saak Se Vikas, which means Saak means credit and Vikas means development. So we tried to take a step forward that, this MIS would actually mirror the credibility of the SHGs, and it could be used by banks, it could be used as evidence on the quality of groups for bank linkage. At the same time, the promoters, whether it is NGOs or the government, would get data and they could actually focus on quality rather than numbers. So this was our thought. So we started off, however, once we developed the software, due to some project related delays at the government contracting of FNGO, so it had to be shelved for around 2 years. So the development happened, but there was no actual rollout. So this was something which happened. In 2012, the NRLM program, which had quite a different design from this program, was launched, and the state there was a lot of focus of the state to align all the development programs which had this SHG component to the NRLM model. Now that is easier said than done. So when you present to Secretary RD and Secretary IT and all, they felt very enthusiastic about it and said that why not? Why can't we tweak it to the NRLM design, and why can't we actually do it across the state? Now, something which was actually designed for 5,000 SHGs, and here you are planning to form more than, say, 5 lakh SHGs over a period of 8 to 10 years, we felt that, okay, at an organization level, we actually did not think through it properly. We felt that, okay, it could be it's a good opportunity for us to take it, this is a good opportunity to scale it up. So that happened, but once you are changing the design, it is, and with each secretary, with each government official, there would be requests to actually add GIS and how can we also track other government schemes through it. So number of requests started coming, and the vendor, we had a fallout with the vendor also, because obviously you cannot keep on changing the requirements, and as an NGOs, we did have limited budgets also to do that. So that's, and then due to internal problems, the vendor team actually managed. So this was basically, the data used to be collected from SHGs and in the manual records, and a copy of it used to come to the block level units where they had a data entry operator to do that. And the loan repayment schedule could go back to the SHGs. That was the design, so that it could help in aiding in accounting. And then the data would also go to the state government, to the NGO partners for monitoring. So this was basically the design, which we felt did not have any, which was pretty okay. So in 2014, now what happened when you try to roll it out with certain changes at the state level, obviously the bandwidth became an issue, and at the central level also there were many changes happening. So then we decided at the government also that why should we actually use it? Why cannot we not have NIC to build it? So that happened, and finally we restricted it to the project for which it was originally envisaged. So the actual training, data entry, everything happened for around 3 years, 2015 to 17. But when the project closed and it got merged with the NRLM, we were actually hoping that the software, because it was a lot of reports, lot of data tracking. You could also, not only like MFIs, you could track the aging of loans, but also loans taken by leaders, and also a lot of it could be tracked. And we really felt that anybody would find it as a useful tool for actually monitoring the quality of their programs. However, we did make our best efforts, but we could not actually convince the government, and other government basically was the major actually stakeholders, because we were not into an implementation role. Our role was basically of a technical and knowledge support provider. So finally it came to an end. Now, okay, yeah. So interestingly, from the point of view of the project, so this Western Rajasthan project was funded also by IFAD, and the project team was different from the government also. They highly praised it, and it was considered to be a success. But eventually at the organization level, a thought which we had that it could actually be continued, it would be adopted on a larger scale, either by the government or the NGOs, actually did not happen. So for us, I think we really missed an opportunity in terms of designing and thinking through the design part of it. And broadly, when we started, dissecting our failure, we felt that one thing which actually went wrong was as to, we should have identified as to who, for the sustainability of, an MI software, and who would it finally be used by. So whether it was the government, whether it is the NGOs, or whether it is the cluster level federations which are being formed. So finally, who is bothered about quality? Who gets impacted more about when a quality of an SHG, when the repayments are not happening? So we felt that there were seemingly aligned objectives of the multiple stakeholders, but actually they were not. So the government was majorly concerned about outreach, about the fund flow. The NGOs who were associated with the project actually were struggling with the payment terms of the government, and they did not have a long-term horizon themselves. Many of them had come in from other locations to work, so they did not have much interested in continuing beyond the project. Another thing which happened was that finally from the government the reports had to come to NGOs, and from them it was supposed to go to the village organization and the cluster level federations, but that flow back of information never happened. And we, our whole of our energy went into dealing with the government and the NGOs and training their staff. But had we done enough, had we reached out enough in terms of starting early to go and maybe recruit a more number of people to deal directly with the federations. Now, here the federations were also formed in the last year. So, but at least the village organizations and all, if we could have helped them access that data and how to understand and make use of that data, that probably could have, eventually helped it sustain for long, and a good mechanism could have been developed. So in terms of our learnings, we do have a few learnings. One is that being, if you want to start being an NGO, something of a highly technical ground, you should either have in-house expertise to do that. You should hire technical people in-house, but don't depend on vendors, because if especially your reputation is at stake. The second part of it was that the program, the NRLM or the Empower was also itself evolving. So any MIS or anything should be introduced only when it has stabilized for a little bit of time. Otherwise, it only leads to chaos and it becomes a project activity. The data entry became a sort of an activity, and rather than actually seeing what the data is reflecting. Third, most importantly, is that we at some point when these objectives or some things of your other stakeholders, it's very difficult to say no to the government, especially when your reputation is at stake, that, okay, you are supposed to be a technical agency, but, have you done enough, and your software is not working properly. So it becomes difficult, but probably sometimes it is best to put your foot down and say that, no, this is not actually what will help the entire program. So we should also learn to say no. And finally, unless we have the final ownership of people for whom it is eventually intended for. For example, if we feel the SHGs would use the reports, if we feel the village organizations or the federations would use the reports, then constant dialogue and their ownership on the program is more important. So these were some of the learnings which I hope many of you might already have. And I think with this tech-driven approach coming across all the sectors, education, health and nutrition. In the previous health session, we talked about the public health system, but a number of ASHA, Anganwadi workers are entering data into 4 to 5 applications, and because we also work a little bit in these areas. So it has all become a data entry approach, but who is analyzing the data, and finally, is it reaching the final people for whose data we are collecting, and how they'll use it is something which needs to be questioned internally by all of us. So thank you very much. I hope I have not exceeded the time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Malika. And also thank you for the background of your organization and actually stressing the importance of reducing actually the cost of learning, right? So each and every stakeholder has their own views on what has been a success or what has been a failure. And I think in general we can all recognize, especially in tech solutions, if you start implementing a system in a project scope, there's different stakeholders and they all want something, and we start developing a system and it eventually becomes like this big monster, and then we need a new system because the system doesn't work anymore and serves our purposes. So and also really stressing who is it being used by, but also whose data are we collecting and how can they then access the information that is useful. So thank you very much for sharing that. Mr. Bala, we go over to you to share your experiences from Fruity.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Silco, for this opportunity to share the failures. I think it is for all of us to come out and share boldly what we have been doing, whether we can actually share it to everyone here, and then also learn from others to be successful in coming years. Yeah, I would like to talk about today, I think in the country, what do you call the producer collective, which has been now, we have been doing self-help groups in the past. Now, how do we build the producer organization can be a vehicle to make our farmers' income reality. I talk about what are some of the learnings from, what are the failures, and then what as organization actually, certain learnings from that experience. Yeah, just to give a brief about, Vritti is part of a Catalyst group. We are based out of Bangalore. We have been in this space for about 28 years. We work on various livelihood transformation model. Currently, we have about 3-4 models where one is working with farmers. Largely, it's about how do we work with small producers, making them 3 times more profitable. I think in the country, we are talking about doubling the farmer's income. But as boldly, we are looking at it, how do we make tripling the small producer income? The small producer, which we are looking at it, one farmers, the other one is about fisher folks. The third is about micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs. That's a target community with whom we are currently working. The farmers, about 130 lakhs farmers, which we are currently working with. Yeah, why actually we got into this program itself? One is all of us know that the agriculture, the rural community is largely depending on agriculture. Their livelihood depends on farming. Can we do something? Can we create some model? That's when I think Government of India, everybody is talking about the collectives were successful. I think there are cooperatives in the country, like sugar cooperatives, or we have seen the Amul, or we have seen every state we have cooperatives. Can we do something similar? That's when we also jumped in. Can we be part of this journey to create model around that? Where I think currently all of you know that there is a program which is cluster-based business organization through them. 10,000 farmers producer organization has been launched. Already there are, you can say it's about, in the paper, there are about 17,000 plus the already producer organization existing, and there are 10,000 more is going to come. Yeah. Yeah, what was the intended outcome which we were actually planning, and the part of the program to align the goals? One is about, all of us know that how do we increase the farmer's income? And more, we had ambitiously, how do we increase tripling the farmer's income? Yeah, and at the same time also, can we reduce their cost? Can we also reduce their risk? Can we also reduce, improve the productivity? And can we build the resilience of the farmers? Yeah. How do we build the resilience? Through bundle of services, which is not the one-off service. Can we add bundle of services, which, because maybe I may not be having that service, but can I work with the ecosystem players to offer the bundle of services, which is categorized into 6C. I'm not going into the detail. And also the ecosystem, which as an organization alone cannot do better, but we need everybody to come together and integrate those services to our farmers. And also the vehicle is about vibrant, the community institutions on the ground, the village and the cluster level producer organization. That's a whole, the strategic intent we had when we joined this program. We had actually promoted across country to about 100 plus farmers producer organization. And we also nurtured, mentored as a technical organization, part of NABARD and part of Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium, and also the other CSR funding support. Where I think one is we need to also realize we jumped into it, but these are all institutions which we are building. It is for the lifetime, yeah? It's not a project basis. I think that's where the failure started. It is about time bound, and when you work on a time bound, you are more about delivering something, but not looking at what you wanted to achieve as a goal. Yeah, but I'm sharing it today here. It's not everything what we did failure, but I'm also talking about the failure within that, what we have actually done. Yeah. Why we call it failure? I think the intended outcomes, which is basically why we are promoting farmers collective, which is we want to see that there is a sustained income for them. It is coming in. They are resilient. They are able to sustain and thrive themselves through their producer collective. I think that is the whole intent in which these institutions which we started, but we could not able to reach that milestone when we were in that journey. What we assumed, I think, one is that during this project time period, I think we'll be able to build that ownership among the community, which is possible. That's the assumption in which we jumped into it, but we miserably failed. Because we went into the territory where we have not actually worked in the past. Because there is a project. Can you come to this district? Can you come to that district? Can you go to this state? We went into across, but we don't have a connection with the community. But within this time frame, which you have to build that connection, understand community, build that engagement with them, build the trust with them, and it's an institution, but we have actually could not able to make it. That's where the assumption got the community ownership, which we could not able to build that. The second, I think this, we all organization as a maybe service-oriented charity, not into the business, because this producer collective are business entity. They have to make money. At the same time, make farmers realize that income. But as a team, I think we are not equipped from moving from service to the business approach. I think we could not able to also build the capabilities of the team. We are not equipped that time. I think that's where we were actually not, like FPO promotion was a new venture around that time, no talent also available. Which is because we all know we work on community mobilization, we deliver service to the community, but running a business and understanding the business, understanding the risk, all that were actually challenged. That's where we could not able to build a team which can actually run the business. Yep, move on. And also, I think the part of the program is also the commitment is that the beyond project period, you will also render service to them continuously. The producer collective itself, it was not sustainable, and how they are going to pay my team cost to render continuously services. Then how long I can actually stay with them? Because I am not a donor, I don't have money. I can use what I have it in surplus, but how long that? I have to convince my board as well. It's not possible. Yeah, but we lost money as well. We tried our best to, in this process, beyond the project period. But we could not able to make them to pay for the services. That's, I think, the capacities, because more we were into delivering the deliverables, which is you achieve 1,000 numbers, then you get paid, not on the intended outcomes. Yeah, that's where the challenge was. And also, we assumed the impact can be achieved in the 3 years time frame, but all of us knows that it is not possible. We know that SHGs, which we have been building, and still we are investing, how long? But these producer organization, which is also male, bringing them together and investing in 3 years, making that reality, it was a challenge. But we thought we can do it, but we didn't. Where fund dispersal connected to the deliverables, not to the intent and outcomes, then that's a challenge. And also, sorry, please, the transition, the conviction of our own team to run that business that I spoke. Yeah. What are the learnings? I think one which we realized, I think new geography, don't get into it. You don't know, it's a dark space. Once you understand, I think that's where all of us know it, but it's a program, it's a massive scale in the country. Why not we also do? And then we want to make that the intent to be reality. But in the journey, the learning is that new geography don't venture into. Where you have already existing, you are working with the community, then you layer this program. Then you can make it successful. Until unless you have not engaged with the community in the past, don't go and build this. Otherwise, you are abandoning like a children. Them, it's like abandoned children. They don't know where to go. Yeah, I'm creating a problem for them. It's just leaving out the institution building and coming out. That's a first one. The second is about, it's a more and more, it's a number game where it's a light touch model. It's just delivering the project. You are not looking at how do you create that impact. Then I think now we, as an organization, we said no. The current 10,000 programs, which I have not taken. As an organization, we have not taken. Because we said no. Many NABARD or SFAC team called us, why you have not applied for the CBBO program? You are one of the guys, you did well in the past. But we said no. Because a lot of learnings, we didn't take it up. Yeah. And also, I think it's naturally how do we evolve these programs on the ground, not in the top to bottom approach, but it's required in the country to scale up the program. But at the same time, where you have already engaged, can you work closely with them, then you're able to naturally evolve these producer organization, then it is sustainable. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. That's a third learning. Yeah, and one more we found, I think it required a lot of investment to build the entire ecosystem and within the organization as well, which is to build the capabilities of the team. And as an organization, we are also ready to scale and support across country. And I think these required huge investment, not in the project itself, because the project, what we got, the money, it is not sufficient, but we didn't predict that this is so much investments are required. I think anything which we venture into new, I think we need organizations to be scale ready, and then also the capabilities needs to be built within the organization, and you need to have your monitoring, evaluation, all the systems in place, then you're able to support across country. Yeah, there are to name few failures where after the project, it was 1 year, these producer organizations were running, then after that, they wounded off. Yeah, maybe Suryakumar ji should not ask me money back because, yeah. It is NABARD funded, wherein 3 in Vellore, which has got now post that, wounded off. That's a sad part of it, but we learned from that process. One is, I think, I spoke to many of the government officers. We all went to schools. I think not everyone get first mark or first rank, yeah, because these investments, but our money got stuck because of these failures, because it's not get released. I've written off in my books, but I've been talking to them. I sent my son to school, he's not got first mark. Can I ask money back? Yeah, that's the status. Now I've been arguing with the IAS officers, can you give him money back? I have taught everyone in the same way, but I could not succeed in all the places. Yeah? Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bala, for sharing so openly and candidly about some of the learnings within your livelihood transformation model. And very recognizable, unfortunately, many of the things that you shared, that we shouldn't expect these long-term impacts to show up after 3 years already. I think we often take a local context for granted when we start building programs on it. So when we go into a new geography, we kind of forget that that also needs to happen or needs to be in place in order to be successful. So super valuable. So thank you for learning a lot. I hear both of you that you should learn to say no to the government as well. And yeah, I think it will be very interesting. Yeah, you already feel it coming, I think. So, Mr. Suryakumar, can you please share a little bit of your insights from the policy side from the bar?
Sure.
Thank you.
Namaskaram to all of you. Thank you, Harish, for having me here. Of course, Harish didn't give me an option. He only told me I have to come here 3 months back, and I'm here. Thank you for that. Here, I would like to present 3 points. I'm aware that there are friends from Africa and other countries here. That is the reason I want to present those 3 quick points. Then I will present one concept on which I'm going to talk, and then I'll present 3 failure stories what we are involved in. So we ourselves have lost money as an organization, so asking someone to get the money back doesn't arise at all. All of us sitting here, I think, are walking and talking soils. Do you agree with me? Maybe some of you very intelligent people can say, oh, my body is 70% water. Why am I walking soil? No, even the water comes from the soil, and water, like water comes from the soil and the food which we eat. So we are walking and talking soils. And when we're talking about development, when we're talking about development anywhere in the world, and especially in the developing world, we're talking with reference to people, we're talking with reference to the soil and everything around it, right? If some of you think you are not talking soils, I think you should be some angels or something of that sort, and I will bow down to you. So another point which I want to tell is I work with an organization called as NABARD. NABARD is a development bank of the country. We basically supervise and regulate the rural financial organizations in the country. We fund state governments for creating rural infrastructure. We refinance the banks, and we work with all types of development organizations, civil society organizations. In a way, I can say, for those of you who come from other parts of the world, we're a World Bank type organization for the country. That's what we are. So here, since we're talking about development, I'm saying that I'm talking about a program where I'll share the experience from a program where we failed. And this is from around 2000 to 2007, three examples. There is a concept called as watershed development, which is widely used in the country. It is used all over the world. Basically, to put it very simple words, when rainwater falls in a particular place, it drains out into a particular point. So the concept is, if you hold at least 30-40% of the water which falls on the ground for some point of time, the water seeps inside and a huge transformation takes in agriculture. When transformation takes in agriculture, so many things attendant to agriculture can happen. So this is the concept. In a watershed program, in each piece, we spend 10 to 20 million Indian rupees each project. Over a period of time, we have invested money in 2.5 million hectares in the country and spent almost 45 billion rupees in the program. So I'm talking about sometime back, like as I said, this dates from 2000 to 2007, these three stories. Once we got a phone call from one of the project site where we invested almost 15 million rupees. It is in the last stages of the project that the villagers have completely removed all the engineering structures. They cut all the trees, and then they told the NGO who was implementing the project, don't come to our village. So, having spent so much time, effort, we wanted to go and find out what exactly has happened. They said, you can't come to our place. Then after a lot of protracted negotiations, we said, okay, we want to come and spend time in the village. They said, okay, come. So then 4 of us went. We spent 4 days in the village. They didn't allow us to stay beyond 5 o'clock. We used to be there at 9 o'clock, spend time till 5 o'clock in the evening. This is deep inside a place called Yavatmal in Maharashtra, this Maharashtra state. So we said, what went wrong when so many things are happening very nicely? Why did you ask us to get out? So no one was talking at all. No one was talking at all. Each one of us, separated. We were talking to everyone, whomsoever. We went to the school teacher, we went to the local officer, everyone. Finally, on the last day, on the 4th day evening, when we were asked to literally, now enough, get out. So one old lady said, hey, who are you? Who are you? I said, we came from Bombay. This man came from Aurangabad. We said, no, I'm asking, who are you? So then we didn't really get the hang of the thing. So she told, you're an outsider. How can you change the social order in our village? How dare you do it? I said, we have spent time, 3.5 years. You don't know what the hell is happening. You are changing the social order. The person, the head of the village, also happens to be the moneylender, also happens to be the agri input lender, and also happens to be the postmaster. The whole thing, they said, is getting completely vitiated and just get out. And that was the clear message. Then in that case, let me just get into the second one before I say something else. There is one, there is an organization which works with around 6,000 women farmers in one state. I'm talking about all these things, all these 3 examples are from Deccan Plateau. So they work with 6,000 women farmers. They do sustainable agriculture. Means great thing is each of these women farmer has 0.25 acres to 1 acre. Their lands are covered with crops almost 8 months in a year. They buy a bit of tea which they drink and a little bit of milk and salt and sugar. Nothing they buy for their homes. So this is an incredibly successful program. I was enamored by that. In fact, that happened to be my dissertation topic for my Masters in Sustainable Development, which I did in UK. So I was so enamored by this particular organization. I said, I want you, means there were 5,000 small emerald patches all over. I said, can I collate all these 5,000 patches into one 2,500 acre patch so that we can do a tipping point and say, hey, come on, can we not do sustainable agriculture like this? So we put money there, and 3 years, we went nowhere. And it caused a lot of problem for me to explain to my auditors why did I spend so much money and why nothing happened, why I abandoned the project. The answer is simple. Here the learning is, a person can be convinced. I can hold a person, I convince a person and bring the person once in a year saying that we are a particular group of people doing something good. But then when we want to collate that, it just didn't really work. Because these people, in fact, we told all these 5,000 people, we want you to be the trainers in your neighboring village where we can do 2,500 acres of such thing. It didn't really work. Third, there is a village 400 kilometers from where we are sitting. It's a 600 acre village. It has done stupendously well on its own. There is a word equivalent in the local language. It's black forest. It's not the black forest of Germany. It's almost black because they grow crops which are suitable. It's a small picturesque valley and mountains, and they grow some suitable crops. They have tree-based farming, which is very, very sustainable. So again, I fell for that great thing which has happened. I told the people in the village and the organization which has done this, hey, come on, since you people have done so well, means they budget the amount of water which comes every year, and they say that which crops, who has to grow based on where their farm is there in that village. So when I told them, you have done incredibly well, I want all of you to support this organization to create the same magic on 2,500 acres of land. Again, it didn't work. Say, like when we're talking about 5,000 patches of emerald into 2,500 acres, it didn't work. Here we have 600 acres of land where people have worked. They couldn't transfer this. Here the point is, as a development professional, what exactly we have to really do, I'll say this and stop. Since we're in a management school, the best management school in the country. Harvard Business School has converted a Korean tale into a management lesson. It says, it talks about, the Korean tale is from 3rd century AD. An emperor in South Korea once sent his son to a teacher, to a gurukul, to a college of learning or whatever we call these days, to learn so that he can become a worthy emperor. Every time this man goes after the training is over, he comes to the father and says, I have learned this. So father says, it's not good enough, go again. Finally, the father pushes the son. He says that to be a worthy emperor, you should be in a position to hear even the rustling of the grass which is growing. That means you should be part of the ecosystem, understand what is happening. Only then development happens. When you really look at these three examples, 3 failures, where we invested a huge amount of money, what is the point here is, as a development professional, do we really understand what is happening in that particular context? And what works? A small is beautiful is so apt here in these examples. So what works in one place need not work in other places. But the principles can be taken. But the most important point is, do we have the ear to the ground? That is the most important thing. If you don't hear the rustling of the grasses, you can't call yourself a good development professional. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Surya Kumar. And yeah, I mean, we all agree we're here as development practitioners coming from different organizations, different stakeholders. And I've heard in each and every single panel that we do need to understand local context, listen to the people that we're working with, don't try to put certain models from top to down, take it for granted that things is replicatable. But I think a very important lesson from this is that we can learn from the principles, and those principles could be applied elsewhere. So thank you so much. We do have some time for some questions. I know that a lot of panels have been overrunning, but since we have 3 speakers, we do have that fortunate position. And I would like to kick off with one question that I saw on the Slido app, and then we take an opportunity to do perhaps 1-2 questions from the audience. So this question is actually from Sebastian, and I would like to start with you, Mr. Surya Kumar, and then perhaps both of you can reflect on his answer as well. So out of all these lessons, which one is the most critical to actually effectively change the system?
Which one of the lessons?
Of the lessons. Out of all the lessons, which one is the most critical, if you can pick one to take away?
Ear to the ground. Ear to the ground, ear to the ground, ear to the ground. Nothing else. Because what works in one village, in one state, need not work in another village in the same state. And I think all of us understand all of us understand that there is a social order, social hierarchy. While some of us in India think, oh, caste system is the bane of the country, social hierarchy exists in all places in the world. You should be extremely aware of that and here to the ground, nothing else. The very concept of scale is wrong. Absolutely. I say, for example, I think there are many, again we're sitting in a management school. There are many regional brands. Regional brands cannot become Lux soaps, which are sold all over the world from Auckland to Alaska. No, they're not. Regional brands are regional brands. When we're talking about development, they have to be, you pick the best practices, but they need to be regional. Replication, scaling up, works up to a level and stops. As the manager funding it, you should be aware what is expandable, what is not expandable. These 3 examples, I tried. I put a huge amount of money. I ended up giving 1,000 explanations. Why did I spend so much money? When you spend 1.5 crore rupees, you end up giving a lot of explanations. I did. It doesn't work.
Thank you. Yeah. Anything to add from your end?
Yeah, no, one, I think I agree with Mr. Suryakumarji is also, I think in my failure thing also I have given, understanding the community is most important, which is, I think we want to be also aspiration to be scale, but in that process somewhere we underestimate the time it takes to understand and work with the community. I think that's one. The second also, as organization, are we ready to scale? And do we have a system? We are not able to predict, or we don't know how much it takes, how much efforts. I think we are not going into the details, nuances to when we want to scale. I think that's the biggest lesson we got from this. We created more problems than the solutions, because one itself we have not solved. Why do we take it into 100? Yeah. I think you need to have a scale-ready organization. You need to have your systems, back-end systems, everything should be ready. Then you are able to kind of support. Thank you.
If you excuse me, I'll say one not a very nice thing too. The arrogance of a development professional, that I am the giver. Don't get me wrong. The arrogance of a development professional or anyone, I am the giver, screws up everything.
Thank you. I think that might be a nice bridge to a next question. I see one there in the audience. Do we have a microphone to go there?
Good morning. My name is Paul Yilia from Sierra Leone. I am a technical advisor at the Energy Nexus Network. I also double as the National Energy Consultant for Sustainable Energy for All. I think we are hitting ourselves too hard in this room.
We have?
Yes, we are hitting ourselves too hard, like punching each other too hard. You know what? We are meant to fail. We have to fail, play, get up, learn, fail, get up, learn, because it is through failure that we succeed. Without failure, there is no growth. Already I see, even in the presentations, I see people giving solutions already to their failure. Like, maybe we should have focused on the impact, but we focus on the deliverables. Believe me, even if you had focused on the impact, you will still fail, because you are meant to fail. Why do we fail? Again, I don't want to go into that reasons and looking for solutions, because apart from the non-binary nature, we also live in an ecosystem that is not linear. Things are not linear. It's complicated. So many elements. We talk about finance for entrepreneurs, finance for end users, backward and forward linkages, technology, innovation. This is a complex ecosystem. So many things in there, policy, regulation, all of this combined. Tell me, who is so intelligent here among us to say, I know all of this when I'm ready to operate, and I know how to deal with all of them,
No
and I
one.
won't fail? Nobody. Nobody. So let's accept failure. We are meant to fail so we can succeed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah.
He wants to speak. Yeah.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much. My name is John. I'm coming from Tanzania in East Africa. I've been working in the government institutions and then again moved to public-private partnership organization, trying to bridge the gaps where these two parties has to work together. I'm really touched by the presentation by Mr. Shura Kumar. The lesson that you have shared with us is quite interesting, especially on the knowledge transfer between two different communities. Now, given the difference and the tradition of different communities, the issue of soil management, soil health management for our communities, for our farmers who are actually the major component, the major portion of our population, and also doing a great role in our economies. How do we really work on addressing the issues of knowledge transfer? What you have just shared, it is practical in many parts of developing economies where agriculture is dominant. And the farmers, we will never do anything different in their production system, if at all, there is no clear understanding about soil management. Production in agriculture starts from the soil. But this knowledge transfer has been in a challenge for quite long. We understand a number of projects in my country that where a farmer in village A has been adopting new approaches, technologies in improving soil health, but neighboring farmers for decades have never adopted anything. Projects from development partners has been coming, project from government institution has been coming in, but nothing is happening. How do we do about it? Could you share some experience from Indian farmers where you also noted the failure just you have mentioned? Thank you.
Hello.
There is.
Can
Yeah.
I speak also? Then you can answer.
Yes, yes,
Satya.
yes.
Yeah.
Please, please.
Yeah. I'm Satya from Odisha. Thanks for your nice presentation. But my question is that actually, in spite of failure in watershed and what are the experience Surya Kumar ji was telling, we have seen 1,000 crores are spending on the MGNRGA. And all are giving employment to the rural people as well as building lot of infrastructures on the livelihood. Can we make climate resilient livelihood structures? Because in spite of going into the study on this climate resilient aspect, all the structures are done, then after actually it is also there a huge devastation after the flood and everything is happening. So what is your suggestion? Because in spite of our a lot of the failure in watershed, why also repeating the same thing in spite of we are doing the climate resilient structure in the coming days also? Thank you.
I will try and try my best to do what from my experience. To John, the knowledge transfer, in my opinion, is possible when the people who have really done, who have walked the path, will come and transfer the knowledge up to a level. That is element which is very, very important. Someone who has really done will come and tell, this is the way it has to be done. 30 to 40% of the people still take it. I personally have done in one of my projects which I was running years back. I picked up a farmer who was running, who was so super successful in a method of cultivating rice without inundating with a lot of water, call it system of rice intensification. It came from I think, somewhere in East Africa only. A Jesuit father has brought it to India. So I brought that person who was cultivating rice in that particular method and trained 40 people. Out of 40 people, 10 people adapted. And I ensured I paid money to the farmer to come every month. Only still 10% of the people done it. That is point number one, but that is the important thing. And the most important thing I believe for transfer of knowledge, a huge amount of audiovisual publicity has to be used. Somehow governments started believing there is no need for a huge amount of audiovisual push for transfer of the knowledge. I think that is really, really required. Earlier, when the Green Revolution took place in India, so there is something called the training and visit system, where the subject matter specialists went and sat with the farmer. After some time, we thought everything is taken care. And other countries in Africa, you're also having this Green Revolution, which is being funded by several people. This is very crucial. Someone who has done it, number one. Number two, and a lot of audiovisual publicity. A credible source saying that it can even then only 30, 40, 50% of the people can take the transfer. It doesn't really work beyond a point. A lot of persuasion will only happen. When the tipping point comes, so many things happen. When the tipping point doesn't come, nothing happens. In Bangalore, near the international airport, all of you came from the airport, a kilometer to the airport, there is a farm which grows 1,500 species of plants, trees, including coffee, successfully. The agriculture university, which is just 1 kilometer to that, doesn't talk about it. Because the point is, see, the education system has developed based on some science. So if you adopt that, they think the science has become, they think they're rubbishing the science. No, it doesn't. It requires some guts to accept that I'm mistake. As I said, we failed, but this way we need to really learn. Then
I'm sorry, I would have to ask you to answer that other question one-on-one. And if anyone is interested into the answer, make sure to gather together because I'm being asked to wrap up. I'm sorry. Yes. But it's a good sign that it actually triggers so much discussion, and it's such an important topic. And I mean, having the different stakeholders, having different roles, having different perspectives, but often in similar approaches, trying to achieve the same, it's really crucial. So I would really like to invite everyone to keep open-minded, have these honest and candid conversations, continue with an ongoing knowledge transfer in that sense. I mean, we don't need sessions for this, to talk about these things. So let's keep on doing this after the conclave as well. So I would like to ask for a big round of applause for the panel again.